Roger Federer took to the court for the final time in his glorious career on Friday night. Perhaps the most iconic part of Federer's final walkout was that it came alongside his biggest rival and amazing friend, Rafael Nadal. Somehow, though, it wasn't enough having two of the greatest players of all time on the same side, as they lost in a thrilling encounter to the doubles pairing of Americans, Frances Tiafoe and Jack Sock. Starting with Fedal, losing final battle together. Somewhere between the emotions during the special Friday night in the O2 Arena, there was also a doubles match, and it was a significant one. Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal were representing Team Europe in what would be the final match of Federer's career. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite the farewell everyone had in mind, and the happily ever after story came to an end as the American duo gate crashed the farewell with a big win over the legendary duo. Sidelined with multiple knee injuries, Federer looked a little rusty throughout, and it was his first match in well over a year and also his final. In fact, he'd already revealed that he'd only play one final match in the tournament, so regardless of a loss or a win, it would have been his only appearance in the Laver Cup. Jack Sock and Frances Tiafoe, though, weren't planning on any sympathy as they came back to win the match 4-6, 7-6, 7-2, 11-9. While the match was iconic for many reasons, it was also an important one for Team World in the Laver Cup, and the win allowed them to get back in the tournament, and they went on to win the entire thing. Fedal played well when you consider the situation, especially with Rafa's struggles with injuries, the overwhelming emotions, and Federer's dodgy knee. But they couldn't end it all on a high. Up next, recapping the match. It was the battle of holding onto your nerve and your serve. Somehow, though, the experienced duo of Rafal and Roger simply struggled with the nerves, and that just shows how big that moment was. But they were still pretty decent on serve, and despite some tough points, there were moments of magic, and they didn't drop a game on their serve in the first set. Federer, though, gave us another magnificent play that no one had ever done before, and it was fitting that he did something of the sort. On a return, Federer smashed the ball, and it went through the net. The crowd gasped, and while the point wasn't given, it was still a pretty fun moment to watch. Along with that, there were some flashes of brilliance before Federer rolled back the years and turned it on, as he applied the pressure at 4-5 and won 2 consecutive points to break the serve, and won the set. The crowd erupted in London, and fans were made up to see that he still had some fantastic tennis left in the tank. Rafa, though, looked like he was struggling with his injuries, and it eventually cost Team Europe in the second set, as they were broken early on. That didn't stop them from piling the pressure on Team World, and finally managed to get the break back and forced a decider. They had the momentum coming into it, but some special tennis from Sock meant that Team World raced into a lead, and eventually closed out the tiebreak 7-2, forcing another tiebreak to decide the match. Moving on to the thrilling tiebreak. As Sock and Tiafoe survived the final pressure from the two champions to force a tiebreak, one thing became certain. Federer had served the final game of his career, and he'd managed to win his final game on serve, very fittingly. However, the tiebreak was a proper thriller. Fedal raced to a 3-0 start in the final tiebreak, thanks to some fantastic serving from Roger, but the Americans came roaring back to tie the game at 3-3. After some solid exchanges, Team World took the ascendancy with a brilliant point from an unexpected situation. Extremely Federer-like. That came from Sock, unfortunately, and they were in the driving seat. Somehow, though, a final push from Team Europe allowed the scriptwriters to give Federer the greatest opportunity of closing out the match, as he got match point on his own serve. However, the tennis gods remain cruel, and their sense of humor can be a bit evil, to say the least. A hard-fought point would go Team Europe's way, and they turned the tide to close out the match that ended with many tears, hugs, and signaled the closing chapter of perhaps the greatest ever to play the sport. Roger Federer's epic career came to a slightly disappointing end, and he didn't get his fair fairy tale win, but he still retires with 20 Grand Slams, the first ever to reach that point, along with 103 career titles, and tennis that inspired many from the current generation to pick up a racket. His impact on the game will forever live long. After that, the post-match embraces. The occasion of the night wasn't the match in itself, it was Roger Federer's farewell, and that meant we'd see a lot more from the organizers as the Laver Cup and the tennis world bid their farewells to Federer. But before all that, the gentleman that he is, the Swiss maestro embraced Nadal in an emotional manner before going on to hug Tiafoe and Sock. Then, he greeted the other members of Team Europe, and the first tears emerged as his chest heaved when he made his way to the middle of the court. As is the tradition in tennis, the winner takes the court for the final time, but it wasn't Team World's Jack Sock or Frances Tiafoe that cherished that moment. It was Federer. He'd won even if he lost, and the 17,500 fans on the court were an apt representation of that exact fact. Roger thanked the spectators before giving his farewell speech to Jim Courier, which resulted in tears being shed by the most stone-cold people in the sport as well. Perhaps the greatest moment of the night, though, was seeing Nadal crying his heart out for Federer. It's not supposed to be like that. They're rivals, and while other rivals also respect one another, it's just extremely rare to imagine your greatest rival crying when you call it a day and supporting you by holding your hand, hugging you, and shedding tears alongside you and your family. It was even better to see that Nadal's family was in attendance for Federer's big moment. Lastly, the farewell. Federer's farewell speech was one of the most emotional moments of our life as well. He explained how his journey in tennis had been perfect and he'd do it all over again. The maestro pointed out how he was happy, not sad, and enjoyed doing everything for the last time. And while we certainly didn't enjoy that, we're happy to see him have a fun weekend alongside his best friends in the sport. In his classy speech, Roger thanked all the players participating in the Laver Cup for being there. And while all of them have been his rivals, it's somehow forgotten that you get to spend a lot of time with them behind the scenes. However, he truly broke down and needed all the courage in the world to go on when he thanked his family, in particular his extremely supportive wife, Mirka, without whom none of this greatness would have been possible. Nadal also paid tribute to his best friend by saying that an important part of my life is leaving too. And it was an extremely emotional night as the entire tennis world bawled their eyes out. In other related news, first up, Jim Courier's comments on Federer's legacy. Jim was given the tough task of negotiating through the farewell of Federer, but he did an exceptional job as always. However, he revealed that his great friend Roger has had a superb career, and he explained how he believes that Federer's legacy is far more than just the successes he's had, and we couldn't agree more. Courier believes that more than just glory, it's about the feelings that Federer evoked from fans all around the globe when playing, and his farewell was the biggest indication of that. Moreover, Tiafoe won't apologize to Federer after win. First of all, it was a stupid question when the journalist asked Frances if he'd apologize to Federer, but the eccentric American star replied with a witty answer. Tiafoe revealed that he won't be apologizing to the Swiss great and said that if that's the case, then Federer owes many apologies to many superstars over the course of his career. And he's absolutely spot on. It's all part of the game, and we're sure even Federer isn't losing a lot of sleep over that loss. The farewell was all that mattered at the end of the day. Wrapping things up with, Federer shut the lid on doubles query. Federer and Nadal were asked if they'd be tempted to unite to play more doubles together, but after jokingly thinking about it, they revealed how it wouldn't be a smart decision. Nadal joked that he could take retirement from singles and focus on doubles, but Federer added that it would be funny because they'd think they're good only to end up not winning anything. That's a wrap for this video. Is Roger Federer the greatest ever? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more more videos like this. See you in the next one.